The Bahamas. A place of legendary beauty. Built over millennia on a foundation of ancient ocean coral. On its 3,000 islands and islets, there is a constant struggle between life and death for the most fearsome and magical creatures on the planet. Of the 700 islands of the Bahamas, humans live on about 30. Underwater, they claim the deepest canyon, the steepest cliffs, and hidden geological treasures. They also harbor some of the most spectacular wildlife in the world, including a few creatures found only here. The interplay between sun, sand, water, and coral has created unique ecosystems to feed and shelter animals, and researchers cannot fully explain. It is the wonder and beauty of the Bahamas. An isolated ecosystem on Eleuthera Island is unlike anywhere else on Earth. No one can explain the creation of this inland saltwater lake, which is separated from the Atlantic Ocean by a limestone ridge. Predator fish like barracuda and sharks are absent, but other species appear to thrive here and are found more often than in the adjacent ocean. The seahorse is unlike most fish. Its tiny dorsal fin and two pectoral fins are not efficient, and it swims rather poorly. It spends much of its time feeding from a small area and uses its strong prehensile tail to anchor itself in place to eat. Because of its slow speed, the seahorse camouflages from predators, like fish or crabs amongst the vegetation. It can change its color and even develop filaments to mimic its surrounding habitat. Each eye moves independently of the other to watch for food and threats. The seahorse uses suction to feed. Its snout works like a straw to draw in invisible crustaceans and copepods. Researchers have discovered that seahorses are amongst the most effective predators on the planet, with a success rate of 90%. They have determined that the seahorse snout is ideally shaped to create minimal disruption in the water to alert prey species of their approach. All the more remarkable, since it must strike from within millimeters of its prey to be effective. Without teeth, it sometimes regurgitates hard-to-swallow bits and tries again. With few predator fish, researchers have found a higher density of seahorses in this pond than any similar habitat in the world. They create an almost surreal, magical environment. In the past, large channels and sea level changes may have allowed larger creatures to move in and out of Sweeting's Pond. Today, it's likely only connected to the sea through the porous rock, which causes it to rise and fall with the tide. Limited inflow of fresh water gives the lake a murky, brackish consistency. This plant, called the mermaid's wineglass, is a green algae. It is one of the largest single-celled organisms in the world. Each cup-top stem is a separate one-celled plant. Crystalline in appearance, it is dusted with dissolved limestone, absorbed from the water. This makes the leaves more rigid and allows the plant to stand upright. The Caribbean reef octopus also makes its home here. With few predators in this isolated saltwater lake, the normally nocturnal creature roams freely during the day. Hundreds of suckers on each arm help anchor it to the ground, hold prey, and even move. They contain receptors that allow it to taste what it touches. The octopus has 3 hearts. 2 pump blood past the gills, while a third circulates it to the rest of the body. Octopus blood contains a copper-based molecule called hemocyanin, which transports oxygen and lends it a unique shade of blue. The circulatory system evolved to be most efficient in cold water. So in the warm tropics, the Caribbean reef octopus does not rely on sustained speed to elude predators. Its first line of defense is concealment. It uses deceptive resemblance to curl itself around a plant and changes its color and texture to blend in. While keeping an eye out for threats. In the open, its instincts rapidly engage when it suspects danger. It expels a jet of water towards the problem. The Caribbean reef octopus also creates distractions by altering its appearance, stretches itself to look bigger, or makes dramatic color changes. Failing all else, it squirts ink to blind or disorient its stalker and allow it to escape to safety. The spectacular landscapes of the Bahamas have been unfolding since the Jurassic era. And evidence here below the surface demonstrates that geological forces remain active. A key shaper of the geography has been the rise and fall of sea levels. Caves and blue holes in the Bahamas provide unique access to observe this firsthand. Halocline layers mark the meeting point between freshwater and salt. A little like oil and water, the density difference means that the lighter, fresh water will sit on top like the oil in a vinaigrette. Organic materials such as leaves get trapped and, while they decompose, provide the dramatic visual evidence of this transition. As in the past, this point of interaction is where the limestone most actively dissolves and softens, even collapses. Far from complete, these caves and sinkholes are still under construction. They will be profoundly affected if rising sea levels lift the halocline layer or inundate some completely with salt water. Along with their numerous blue holes, the Bahamas are also famous for their white sand beaches that expand and contract with the tides. A seemingly endless supply of sand was produced from the marine life found in these warm, shallow waters for millions of years. It has shaped thousands of islets called keys, some of which are occupied by extremely rare creatures, like the rock iguana. Iguanas are a type of tropical lizard, which usually feeds on plants, but is also known as an opportunistic carnivore. The white key rock iguana is an ancient reptile with distinct red and orange colors on its scaly body. In the dry Bahamian climate, the iguana forages for succulent plants and fruits to stay hydrated. After they consume fruit and flowers on the ground and in the trees, they spread the seeds across the island. They are tough and powerful reptiles. Strong claws and sturdy legs help it move efficiently across the terrain. Most of the iguanas here are male. They present their most vivid coloration throughout the mating season. And the struggle for territory gets intense. Today, beach domination is the goal. This iguana signals his aggression to the group with head bobs. The ridge of spines helps him appear bigger to his peers. He also threatens rivals with an open mouth gesture. The clash culminates in a powerful takedown. The dominant iguana claims the territory, for now. Bahamian rock iguanas are thought to be of two main species, but this group has evolved as a distinct subspecies. Throughout the Bahamas, all iguana populations are under threat from human-introduced species of rats, cats and dogs. Here on White Key, the population was ravaged by a raccoon, which had to be removed before it eradicated the entire colony. These iguanas are still considered critically endangered. Fewer than 1,500 are left, and they only live here on White Key. The conflict amongst the males is compounded by a drastic imbalance. More than 80% of the population is male. Researchers speculate higher temperatures during incubation are to blame. This creates a dangerous population bottleneck. The females only mate once a year and produce 6 to 8 eggs. One of these rare females stands on guard in the brush. She has likely dug her nest into the sand at the base of this tree and will remain vigilant until the eggs hatch in the autumn. Head bobs can be a mating display among iguanas, but here it is an aggressive signal used to warn off intruders. In an effort to protect a new generation of white key iguanas. Beyond the islands and islets, sharks are also threatened on a global scale. The Bahamas are at the forefront of their protection, and at least 40 species are found here. Large species like the oceanic white-tip are readily found cruising in deep blue water. Mangroves shelter breeding and juvenile lemon and nurse sharks. Others prowl the reefs to feed on bony fishes. Many species are specially adapted to exploit the sandy bottom, to unearth mollusks and crustaceans. These sharks are surprising relatives of a kind of fish that shares their cartilage skeletons. Elasmobranches are a family of fish that include all living species of sharks and their cousins, skates and rays. Some even go as far as to call manta rays and stingrays winged sharks. Most of the family presents gills, spiracles, and paired pectoral fins. Critical electrosensitive ampullae of Lorenzini around their snouts are shared by sharks and rays to sweep for prey. The winged shark reference is particularly fitting for the spotted eagle ray. It moves with a bird-like motion to forage for mollusks and fish in its shallow sand habitat. It is one of the largest rays in the Bahamas. Despite its delicate appearance, it has a wingspan of up to 3 meters and weighs as much as 230 kilograms. Although it is large, it is not immune to predators. This eagle ray is missing its tail. It was likely lost to a bite from a shark or moray eel. The tiny yellow stingray is a member of the round ray family. Its body shape allows it to travel rougher terrain with undulating movements. A much smaller species, its pectoral fins measure only 35 centimeters across. It searches for food like crabs, worms, and small fish, using the electrosensory pores around its mouth. Then flaps its fins to remove the sand, to expose its prey. The yellow ray has panoramic vision. It can detect predators from any direction. It maneuvers and camouflages to avoid speedy hunters, particularly tiger sharks. Though not aggressive, a sting from this little fellow is more toxic than a jab from the much larger southern stingray. An accidental injury when a beachgoer steps on this well-camouflaged bottom dweller. The birds that inhabit the Bahamas are often colorful characters. Who exploit the nearby waters for fish and crustaceans. And frequently nest on the ground. But there are exceptions. Resident Bahama and northern mockingbirds nest high in the trees here on Cat Island. Their drab coloring conceals them among the branches. Mothers incubate their eggs for about 2 weeks, and they have recently hatched. With the babies secure in the nest, this mother hops to a higher branch to keep close watch. The parents scour the area for insects to feed their hatchlings, who are constantly hungry. The Bahama mockingbird is most similar to the Galapagos type. It is larger than the northern variety, but almost identical to the untrained eye. The Bahama mockingbird sings a melodious tune from a high perch, very different from local shorebirds. Mockingbirds are born blind and helpless. The chicks mature quickly, though. These youngsters will be ready to fledge and fly from the nest in about 14 days. But the parents will continue to feed them for a while longer. Elsewhere, the lushness of the mangrove swamp masks the harshness of this environment. Mangroves succeed here because other plants can't compete. They are unable to tolerate high levels of salt in the mud. Red mangroves have evolved to close their cells to the salt as the tides come in. While black mangroves send out vertical roots to take in oxygen above the water's surface and ship excess salt to their oldest leaves to purge it from the tree. The decaying mangrove leaves are a crucial link in the Bahamian food chain and feed bacteria and plankton to create nutrients for increasingly larger creatures in the web. shallow water and tangled roots protect many juvenile species until they are large enough to compete on the reefs. But among the branches and roots of the mangroves, numerous invertebrates, like crustaceans and mollusks, make their permanent homes. The mangrove tree crab spends most of its time in the red mangrove, but cannot breathe air directly. It must stay close enough to the water to replace a film of water that allows it to take in oxygen. The sharp tips of its legs help the crab scale branches to reach the leaves that make up the bulk of its diet. Large claws also help it to navigate the mangrove tree. And they serve another, more aggressive function. This male, distinguished by his larger red claws, intimidates a smaller crab, forcing it to back away. The smaller crab retreats a little. The larger crab makes its move. The smaller crab backs down. And leaves the large male to dominate his branch. An elegant example from the family of snails and slugs is the spotted sea hare. It is a marine slug who lacks the external shell of its snail cousins. This animal is named for its protrusions that look like rabbit ears. It uses a tube-like structure called a siphon to suck in water to breathe. Though it feeds on algae, roughly 1/4 of what it consumes is sand. The sediment weighs it down and makes it vulnerable to predators. But within its soft body is an effective defense mechanism. Like its distant relative, the octopus, the sea hare releases ink when it is disturbed. The chemicals irritate predators and allow the sea hare to make an escape. The protective mangroves are the perfect place for juvenile sea creatures to develop before venturing out to more dangerous territory. The butterfly fish matures in the sheltered shallow waters of the mangrove creek. Its most notable features are dark spots that look like pupils. Researchers think this large eye creates the illusion it belongs to a large fish and works to deter predators. When approached, the butterfly fish will turn its false eye spots towards the threat to encourage an attack to its tail instead of its head while it makes an escape. Its real eye is masked with an eye bar to aid in the deception. It normally feeds on tiny invertebrates, But this carnivore also nips with bristle-like teeth at a jellyfish. Nor is it intimidated by the toxic fireworm, although it suffers repeated stings for its trouble. Once grown, butterfly fish make the transition to shallow reefs, less than 20 meters deep. Their snouts allow them to graze in crevices on coral and for other creatures like worms. They pair bond quite young and are one of a few species of fish believed to be monogamous. They are the most common butterfly fish and are often seen swimming the reef together. The coral reefs the butterfly fish inhabit have thrived in these waters for millennia. The accumulation of their calcified remains became the limestone that forms the foundation of the Bahamian Islands. It has been measured to depths of 8,000 meters. Living coral comes in countless shapes and colors, individually suited to specific water depths and temperature, tides, currents, and available sunlight. Soft corals, like sea whips and sea fans, position themselves in places of strong water flow. Building corals accumulate in the millions to create reefs. One of the most spectacular examples is the elkhorn coral, named for its distinctive antler shape. It is most often found in the tropical western Atlantic, within 5 meters of the surface, where the sunlight is brightest. Elkhorn coral has proved very vulnerable to worldwide coral declines caused by disease, predation, hurricanes, and bleaching from extreme water temperatures. Experts estimate losses of this species are between 80 and 98%. Almost wiped out in many parts of the Caribbean. This surviving patch in the Exuma Keys Land and Sea Park plays a key role to protect inner reefs and shores from heavy surf. It is rare to find such a viable elkhorn colony anywhere in the world, suggesting that reducing human impact can protect this vulnerable ecosystem and make it more resilient to environmental stresses. Open waters that surround the Bahamas make up most of the country's territory, but only a small fraction of its wildlife lives here, many fewer than in the rich coastal habitats. The animals who do thrive are in constant motion, in a perpetual quest for food, mates, or shelter. Drop-offs present clearly topside. Below the surface, the transition can be just as abrupt. Where ocean cliffs plunge hundreds and sometimes thousands of meters with little warning. Predator fish, like barracuda, and barjacks linger here. Barjacks hunt by sight, so are usually active through the day. They gather in schools to forage because the benefits outweigh the drawbacks of increased competition. It protects them from larger fish by making it difficult to target any one individual, and together they have a better chance of identifying an inbound predator. Barjacks exploit the perfect visibility that allows them to spot both predator and prey here for hundreds of meters in all directions. This water clarity is a product of the island's limestone foundations and has major impacts well beyond the shore. On shore, runoff from rain filters through the limestone and removes most of the sediment. The lack of organic matter means less plankton and affects the types of wildlife found in these waters. Modern whales are broken into two groups, baleen whales and toothed whales. Baleen whales have a filter system instead of teeth. They strain thousands of kilograms of marine organisms like plankton from ingested seawater. These whales appear rarely in the Bahamas because there's not enough plankton to sustain them. Resident whale populations are usually of the toothed variety. They use a type of sonar called echolocation to hunt larger prey like squid and fish. Both sperm whales and Blenville's beaked whales use the deep canyons that surround the islands to dive repeatedly more than a kilometer for up to an hour to feed. Sperm whales each consume up to a ton of squid daily. One of the species they target is the jewel squid. It is found at depths of 2 kilometers, well within the range of the sperm whale. At night, the squid rise to shallower water to feed. Its eyes are mismatched. The larger eye looks up for food, while the smaller one keeps a watch for predators below. The quantity of squid required by the sperm whales suggests to researchers that jewel squid usually occur in schools, and that echolocation is a key strategy used by the sperm whales to locate the schools deep below. In the vast open waters of the Bahamas, traveling the ocean can be a huge energy drain, especially for smaller creatures. But one fish travels and uses very little energy at all. Remoras, also known as suckerfish, hitch rides on different kinds of sea creatures. Like sharks, remoras do not have swim bladders to help them stay afloat. This makes the remora a weak swimmer. There are 8 different species of remora, which range in size from 17 centimeters to 1 meter in length. They attach to hosts with their modified dorsal fin. A slatted disc on top of their head acts like a suction cup. The speed of the host species provides important water flow over the gills to help oxygenate their blood. Loggerhead sea turtles help remoras cover great distances. This smaller remora has fastened onto a parrotfish. While they are not parasitic, they often annoy their hosts. As the parrotfish tries to shake the hitchhiker, it hangs on. These strange, pesky fish thrive in the Bahamas, riding through the ocean, rested and protected. Christina Zanato has been diving these waters for more than 20 years. She and her team dedicate their lives to better understanding the full range of creatures that inhabit the amazing ecosystems of the Bahamas. Christina is also one of the only shark feeders in the world. She is very familiar with this key predator, the Caribbean reef shark. One of the most common sharks in the region, they are known for their gentle nature. This shiver of reef shark seems to know her. Under Christina's handling, they look more like a pack of happy dogs than apex predators. Unlike humans, sharks have adaptations for greater sensory reception. In addition to sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, sharks also benefit from electroreception. With this ability, they are able to perceive electromagnetic fields with sensitivity 5 million times more than humans, and by far the best in the animal kingdom. This is because the reef shark's muzzle is spotted with tiny sensors. They are a network of jelly-filled pores called ampullae of Lorenzini that receive charges transmitted through seawater and send signals to their brains. Researchers believe these account for sharks' prodigious navigational and hunting abilities. Over the course of many years, Christina has perfected the art of stroking these ampullae and putting the sharks in a state of extreme relaxation. It is hard to tell who is more entranced. This reef shark has become so relaxed as to fall completely under Christina's spell. Scattered across nearly 170,000 square kilometers of the Atlantic Ocean, the islands of the Bahamas anchor countless ecosystems. These interconnected webs of creatures are perfectly adapted to their environments. From deep underwater canyons to sandbars and rocks just above sea level. So isolated from humans, their secrets are only just being revealed. Far from fixed, our knowledge, and even the geography, is alive and dynamic. The wonder and beauty of the Bahamas will provide new discoveries for generations to come.